Hey, what's up? It's Mike Squires, and this is the Couch Riffs Podcast, episode number 101, which nobody is more surprised than I am that there are 101 podcast episodes that I created. So, thank you so much for listening. Now, listen, my guest on this episode is Kirk Douglas of the Roots. What the fuck, right? What a guy. We had such a great time talking. We just about went on, and I could have talked to Kirk for hours, except for I had shit to do. He had shit to do. I got into his record 100 Pound Heart last year. You know, I saw something maybe on Guitar World, or I saw a headline come across through an email or something. Anyway, I was like, oh, I'll go check this out. And it's blistering. It's so good. I highly recommend you going out and listening to it. And so, there was a song in particular. I think it was, I Used to Be in the Circus. And I was like, oh man, that kind of sounds like Mark Ford. And so we got onto that a little bit, and turns out he is a big Mark Ford fan. And so, I'm glad I wasn't crazy, but we talked a lot about what got him into guitar and his evolution. And, of course, we talked about the Prince guitar breaking incident, which, if you don't know about that, it's such a good story. And life right now, it's crazy. So I hope that you enjoy this conversation. It was an absolute blast to have. Now, if you like the Couch Riffs Podcast, do me a favor. Go, leave a positive review wherever you're listening, or a 5-star or 4-star, whatever, how many stars there are. Leave a lot of stars. Rate the podcast. It helps us stay in the algorithm, and it helps us keep, up there in the top and getting recommended. And it's those sorts of things that allow us to continue getting great guests. And so thank you everyone who's done that already, and thank you in advance for doing it. I appreciate it. Let's see, if you really love the podcast, you could be a pledge supporter. So you could be a pledge supporter. You could leave the rating and review. You could share videos. And if you haven't seen the videos, or you don't know about the videos, go to YouTube and type in Couch Riffs, because I think you'll be happy. And there are a lot more coming, which are going to be... I find myself laughing all the time at these situations that I've created. And it's brought a lot of joy to my life. So if you could share those things, share the podcast, all that stuff really helps. If you want to be a pledge supporter, you could pledge as little as 99 cents a month to support the podcast and the video endeavors. It goes a long way towards helping. This stuff, it takes a lot of time. I've invested a lot of money into the resources to be able to do these things. And so that help that these folks provide is crucial. So thank you so much. You can do that. Go to the website, couchriffs.com. You can go to anchor.fm/couch-riffs, or just go to anchor.fm, search for Couch Riffs, or there's a link right in this episode. Like whatever you're holding in your hand, or whatever platform you're looking at it from, the description has a link in it. So these folks have been supporting me, and I thank you very much. So thank you, Ryan Waters. Thank you, Hayden Smith. Thank you, Ryan Hooper. Thank you, Jamie McParland. Thank you, Teresa Morgan. Thank you, Matt Gabbs. Thank you, Justin Jones. Check out his cool-ass guitars. Thank you, Doug Starkovic. Thank you, Deja Colantuono. Thank you, Adam Pranica. Thank you, Dan Hurst. Thank you, Joan McKagan-Baker. Thank you, Mike Lacerda. Thank you, Soto Rebellos. Thank you, Dan Leary. Thank you, Kathy Giordano. Thank you, Rebecca Pellman. Thank you, Daniel Bland. Thank you, Chris Smith. Thank you, Perry Morgan. Thank you, Oliver Spencer. Thank you, Paul Hutzler. Thank you, Justice Gash. Go check out his videos. Thank you, Steve Hall. Thank you, Rolla Amplifiers. Go check out that Bob Balch and keep your eyes peeled for a video with Bob in it coming up really soon. And of course, as always, thank you to River City Guitars. River City Guitars is a little guitar store in Spokane, Washington. My good friend Bobby runs, and Bobby is a hard-working family fella up there. He is out hustling constantly, getting new, super cool, vintage, used, and just rad pieces into his shop. It doesn't always go up onto the website straight away, so follow them on social media, and they're constantly posting, amazing stuff there. They're, as I said, Bobby is constantly buying stuff. Okay, every day is a buying day. So if you have a cool old guitar, some old thing that you've been sitting on, maybe you're ready to buy yourself a new riding lawnmower, and you need to kick up some scratch, and you're like, I've been using that thing for a while. Let's sell it to River City Guitars. Bobby's interested. Okay, give him a call, 509-818-7693, or shoot him an email at sales.rivercityguitars@gmail.com. Every week, I pick a guitar of the week from their website. And this week, I choose what I think is the, arguably the coolest version of the SG. I know people that would argue with me, but this is is a Gibson, a 1961 Gibson Les Paul custom shop, historic reissue. So this is a cherry finish, the small pick guard, 2 humbuckers. They were called Les Pauls, but they're what we all know as SGs, right? This guitar is so, I don't know how something can look sinister and classy at the same time. They're just like, they've got those thin mahogany bodies, and they just ring. This one weighs 6 pounds too. 6 pounds. That's like, I think my Telecaster weighs more than that. This thing can be had for $32.99, or make them an offer. Get over there to rivercityguitars.com and check it out. It's a beauty. You're going to love it. All right. Now listen, we're going to get into the conversation. I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for some more amazing stuff. I've got great guests coming up, amazing videos coming up, and I'm having a lot of fun right now. So I appreciate your guys' support. Don't forget the golden rule. Treat people the way you would like to be treated. Think about that, And don't be a dick. They go hand in hand. No one wants to be treated like a dick. So, you can go off and pay a dominatrix for that if you want. But out in the real world, leave that shit alone.
Hello?
There we go. Can you hear me? Good deal. Right on, man.
This doesn't suck.
Oh, it's fine. This is great. It's, yeah. When I was using Skype for a while, and then I was pretty slow on the uptake with the Zoom thing, but everyone was doing it, and I was like, okay, fine. I'm always the guy that's like, not going to adopt the new hot thing until it's passé.
Yeah, kind of the same. This is the first time I've had to, at your behest, try to use interface with Zoom. And I thought, what could possibly go wrong? And the answer to that is everything. But yeah, the Zoom said it was recognizing my interface. My computer said it was recognizing my interface. It was giving me all the green lights, except in terms of hearing things and being heard. So.
Except for an practical application.
Yeah, but here we are now. We're cool. And now I know I'm not going to try to do that again, because this sounds pretty good. I hear you fine.
Yeah. The thing is like when folks don't wear headphones or earbuds of any kind, there's an automatic noise canceling thing, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
just the conversational interaction makes a bunch of jittery stops and cuts and
Inevitable awkwardness.
yeah, and I'm just teetering on semi-professionalism here. I don't need any help like throwing I don't need anyone to throw me an anchor.
No, no. Why would you?
How are you doing? You all right?
I'm doing good. What kind of guitar is that behind you?
Oh, dude. So I also switched. This is the first time I've done the podcast in this room. I have a little studio downstairs, but it has like we live up in the country now. So it has this like sliding barn door kind of thing that separates it from the kitchen. And it still picks up ambient noise. So I've been shooting in my bedroom, but it's just, again, not super pro. I realized yesterday, I was like, I was talking to someone and they were set up and they had their guitars next to them and they like played a little bit. And I was like, oh, I look like a dick right now. I'm like, I've got my back against the wall sitting on my bed.
Yeah.
Like I look like a kid with a fanzine.
Right. You look at step up in professionalism. I would say having a guitar at hand and being that this is couch riffs.
Yeah.
You got the riff and I got the couch.
That's it, man.
So together, Wonder Twins activate.
We got it. I don't think this thing is typically nope. It's typically in this weird tuning that I don't know if anyone uses, almost an open tuning. Okay. I bought that guitar for $60 at Old Town Music.
Old Town in
Portland.
Portland.
Oh wait a minute, no, I didn't. I got it in Portland, but I got it at Trade Up Music in Portland for $60, and I think it's a silver tone or a harmony. They're all about the same. Probably, I think they were all built by the same folks, but it's great. I've probably written more. You can't tune it standard and expect it to stick around. For a while, I thought about putting a neck reset on it because I really love it. I've written a lot of songs on it, but it's just that's a fool's errand.
The next set going the full thing with restoration?
Yeah, that would probably cost 15 times what the guitar costs. I could just buy a really nice guitar, but I wouldn't have an emotional attachment to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, depending on how much disposable income you have, you might find that guitar does something and feels a certain way that you didn't expect it could, be able to do,
I do that kind of thing a lot. I don't have disposable income. Maybe someday.
Well, I haven't heard the guitar.
Yeah.
So, if I was to hear it in its full, in person, in full fidelity and hear its potential, then I can say, whoa, if this sounds as good, imagine if it played, if I could just access everything and there's something about a guitar that when it's fun to play.
Oh, yeah.
And what that is a combination of the sound and the way it feels in your hands. And sometimes, you'll go to, like if see a guitar, it's like, there's an attraction, and then you'll pick it up and then you feel and be like, oh, we have nothing to talk about, and then,
right.
That's if it's an electric guitar, if it's just like, if it just doesn't feel good, then it's just like, I can't go further. But if it feels good, like if it feels like the equivalent of like putting your hand inside a glove and it just feels warm and it's anything that fits or, clothing, but just like when it feels nice in your hand, like, oh, well, I wonder what it sounds like. And then you plug it in. If it sounds good, while it's feeling good, it's, then you want to go further. And then and then you just keep going. And then eventually it's just like, I can't not be with this thing forever.
I think there's a lot of truth. Do you find that there's a lot of truth in that statement where if you can play an electric guitar and it rings out and sounds great before you plug it in, you should just buy it?
I don't think it's quite so simple. Like if it sounds good unplugged, you should just buy it.
Well, it's gonna
Yeah,
be a
yeah,
great
yeah.
guitar.
I think there's definitely truth to that. I mean, it's yeah. If what's happening acoustically is happening, and then you plug that thing in with the right pickups, and it's just the simplicity of amplifying what's already good.
Yeah,
Then yeah, I'd say that's a good proverb.
yeah. Uh, Let me. Do you mind if I ask you about something you've probably talked about more than you even care to talk about? Just because I'd love to hear the story straight from you. Because
The Prince guitar.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
Um,
those are great guitars.
yes,
And
indeed, indeed. It was a similar thing when buying that guitar. It was purchased from. Do you know 30th Street Guitars?
of course.
Yes, it's a New York staple. So shortly after joining the Roots, um, probably I joined the Roots in 2003. I probably met that guitar in 2005, uh, maybe even 2004. And I remember going to 30th Street and seeing it, and I remember I was interested because I saw Mark Ford from the Black Crowes
Oh yeah.
playing that guitar in the video for I think their song Blackberry. There was a video for Blackberry, and he's playing a guitar like that. So when I saw that guitar, I was like, "Oh, that's the guitar that Mark Ford had." And so it was it didn't have its original tremolo. It normally has like this sort of wooden piece with an E. It's a little very 70s looking,
Yeah.
or late very of its time. But it didn't have that. It had just a stop tail piece, not like whatever a Les Paul would have. But I remember I plugged it into like a Bogner Shiva, so the equivalent of a Marshall. And I remember just being like, "Oh my god, it sounded so good," and it felt. I mean, it's everything that I just described to you about what goes through your mind when you encounter a guitar that you should buy. I mean, in my mind's eye, I was picturing that guitar, and Matt was selling it for 1,200. And I remember we had a gig in New Orleans, and I remember I was like, let me think about it. And then while we were in New Orleans, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I made the call. I gave my card information over the phone. I remember. So yeah, that guitar served me wonderfully. I remember the Roots were for a period we were doing the Dylan song "Masters of War." It was in our set, and in the middle of the song, we kind of went into like a machine gun sort of breakdown
Yeah.
with the tuba playing the bass line. And yeah, that guitar traveled with me so many places. And actually, I met Mark Ford and had that guitar on tour eventually. Anyhow, so years later, that guitar um, was at 30 Rockefeller Center where we shoot the Tonight Show. And I had that guitar because we were doing some rehearsals for a performance at Carnegie Hall, and I remember Prince was in town that for to play on the Tonight Show. It's before it was the Tonight Show. It was when it was still late night with Jimmy Fallon, and for some reason he showed up for the rehearsal without a guitar. I guess it was traveling separately from him, and he showed up first. But our stage manager, Keith McPhee, said to Prince, he was like, well, maybe you'd want to use Kirk's guitars, one of Kirk's guitars. I forgot if Prince asked to use one of my guitars or if Keith volunteered one of my guitars. So they went to our rehearsal room, and I could imagine Keith probably being excited to take Prince to our rehearsal room. And I had like my guitars that live at 30 Rock there. It's probably like 5 guitars. But he went for the one, the Epiphone Crestwood, the 61 Epiphone Crestwood, and it had like this purple strap on it, and so I guess it must have seemed inviting. And if he picked it up and tried it out and played it, he saw and felt everything that I saw and felt in that guitar that made me fall in love with it. So
Did it have a pretty big neck?
You have a what?
Did it have a pretty big neck?
Not particularly big, not too wide, not too deep. It was actually no, it didn't actually. It was very comfortable, kind of a fastish neck. Because the reissues that came out don't feel like that neck.
Yeah.
Because I have a reissue because Epiphone was so they felt so bad for me after the incident that they reached out with um, a new version of that guitar,
Yeah.
and it totally feels different, totally different. Like way flatter fretboard, thicker neck, but not the one
Yeah.
that I had. So anyhow, so I got all these pictures on Facebook um, of Prince playing that guitar, and I was blown away. Just I was excited, and I was reposting the picture, and so I came. I went to work that day. Everybody, the place is buzzing. Prince is in the building, and right before we go to showtime, our our music segment, our music booker comes up to me and he's like, Prince would like to use your guitar for the performance and he'd like to buy it from you. Because I have to let you know that after he used my guitar for soundcheck, his guitar eventually did show up.
Yeah.
So before his performance, before the whole show, they're like, he wants to use a guitar for the performance, he wants to buy it from you. So I was like, he could totally use it for the performance, but he totally can't buy it from me. It's like my favorite guitar. Um, so my guitar left the bandstand for a second, and then it came back. And so it comes time to the end of the performance, the end of the show, and Prince is about to play. He does two songs. He does the first song, and he plays his guitar, which at the time was a Box. He was using Box guitars for a period.
Oh yeah.
And I think this Vox like had his face on it. So he used that for the first song. And after he did the first song, he comes over to me and he's like, yo, let me see that guitar. And so I'm like, yeah, sure. So I pass him my guitar, the Epiphone, and he did the song Brandy with it. And he shredded it. He killed it. And at the end of the song, he picks up the guitar, and I'm thinking he's going to play behind his head. But instead, he throws it like I've seen him do when he did the While My Guitar Gently Weeps solo with Petty and Donnie Harrison. But he throws it, but on that performance, somebody caught it. On this performance, nobody caught it.
Nobody was in the rafters.
Yeah, he just tossed it in the air, and it just came crashing down. And he just strutted off the stage while it was speeding back. And Jimmy just like walks, over the guitar, and like I think it fell down like on a monitor. And I mean, the camera was on me, but I remember just the feeling of watching Prince play my guitar and what that felt like, and just the 180-degree turn in emotion when I saw what I saw. And I'm in public, I'm like, there's like a room full of people. And there was a cameraman that kept his camera on me for my reaction. I think he sent it to me, but just like, you see my face and I'm just like kind of laughing, but it was like just the most awkward laugh. Like you could tell, like it was like the laughter of somebody that felt a little bit abused. But what's funny is our bass player, Mark Kelly, was to my right, and he was howling with laughter. Like it was so
beyond
funny.
repair.
Oh no, it was totally repairable.
Oh.
What was great about it? Well, I mean, I guess that's the reason I didn't freak out too much, because that particular guitar had been broken before. That guitar is no stranger to pain. I remember doing a gig. I forgot where we were, but I had one of those double gig bags.
Yeah.
And it shared the gig bag. It was the Epiphone Crestwood and the Les Paul. And I had to do something right after the performance, so our roadies packed up the guitars and packed them back to back.
Oh no!
So it's like you have the Crestwood, the Les Paul, back to back in the case. I remember being in security and opening up. They're like, "All right, can you open your case so we can see?" And I opened it up and I saw the Crestwood with the headstock snapped off, and I just shrieked. So when I saw what I saw, it wasn't that. It was I was thinking it can, in my back of my mind. I was like, this can probably be repaired, but it was more, the gesture.
Do you-
Um, and then there's
it
totally
gets
more.
better.
Keith
Did you
was
tell
like,
him he could totally buy it then?
"What?"
Tell him, oh, you can totally buy it now.
Yeah, yeah, no. Well, I mean, it was still my favorite guitar, and it's just like that's the thing. It's just like it was not just. I mean, I had to remind myself, I think about it. I think about it now. It's just like I'm in my brain with my world, and compare that to Prince's brain in Prince's world. Two different worlds, and what a broken guitar means to me, and sentiment to a guitar means something totally different to him. It's
Right.
like he could build a house made of guitars like that if he wanted to. So anyhow, Keith comes up to me. He's just like, Prince wants to talk to you, and I'm like, duh, I want to talk to Prince. So we go to where they're mixing the performance that they just did, and they're mixing it super loud. I can barely hear him, but I can make out the words. I'm sorry. He was saying something happened with his other guitar, and he said, we'll take care of it." But after they were done mixing the performance, the only thing that happened from his injury is the pick guard, not the pick guard, the fretboard became separated from the
Yeah.
neck, and where you see where you have the tuning pegs on like one of the wings of the tuning pegs, it's like broke off, so all the tuning pegs kind of like fell out. So it broke
Right.
like that. So so I say to him, I'm like, all right, well, you broke it. You think you can at least, sign it? Thinking, of course, I'll sign it. And it's like, oh no, I haven't signed anything since the '70s. Yep.
let let me ask you. I mean, and I don't want to. I saw Prince a number of times, and I saw him at the Showbox in Seattle.
Oh wow.
Like when he did that club tour. I'm a big fan,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of circus around his world, right? And
Absolutely.
do you think that if you would have said we would talk about the guitar after the show, he would have thrown it in the air? I mean, I don't want to
What do you
speculate
mean? If we'll talk about the guitar after, like as
the
if to
sale.
say,
Like, I don't want to
yeah, maybe you could
speculate
buy
that
it.
he was being a spiteful dick, but
You're saying you don't want to believe he was a spiteful dick?
I don't want. No, I don't want to. I don't want to speculate that he was. But do you think that if you would have said, "Go play it," and we'll talk about the guitar after the show, he would have thrown it up like that?
Perhaps not. We'll never,
Right.
never know. And the thing is, it's like from, yeah, I totally think it's like, oh well, if I can't have it, then nobody can, uh, I don't know, like, I mean, in his mind, I mean, the thing is, I'm totally happy it happened. He totally wired money into my account that paid for many things that I needed at the time.
Did the deposit say Prince on it, or
It was New Power
Paisley
Generation.
Oh, that's hot.
But what's crazy is the whole reason that guitar was even in 30 Rock in the first place, as I mentioned at the beginning, it was there for a performance that we had to do at Carnegie Hall. That performance was a tribute to Prince.
Really? Did he know that?
No.
That's
Did he know
incredible.
that guitar was for a performance at Carnegie Hall? No.
Did he know that you guys were doing that?
Probably.
Maybe. He
I would
probably
say he
had his
probably knew.
finger on the pulse of things that had to do with him.
I mean, because later that week, like actually 2 days after, I mean, oh god, like in preparation for this thing, we have to play with all these artists. We're the house band for this, so we have to play with all these artists that are honoring Prince. Everybody knew what happened, so everybody came up to me and was like, "Oh man!"
Everybody wanted to know.
Like, yeah, like Wendy. Wendy was like, "That prick, he knew what he was doing. He totally knew what he was doing. Are you kidding me?" So it's like, I mean, the conversations that I got to have
Right.
in light of what happened were like priceless.
Yeah.
And I mean, for him being as famous as he's been for so long, And having achieved what we can all agree on as a level of genius, he in his mind he's probably like, let me hook this kid up and break his guitar and watch what happens.
Right.
I mean, who knows if he's that calculating?
Right.
Chris Rock was like, well, now you have your own Prince's asshole to me story, like so many. So I got to have that interaction with Chris Rock. I got,
Right.
Jackson, Elvis Costello reached out to me.
That's amazing.
He got an email from Jackson Brown. Jackson Brown found another guitar like that, emailed Elvis, and Elvis contacted me about it.
Did you pick that up?
What?
Did you pick it up?
Oh, they just sent an email. Oh, did I pick up the guitar?
Yeah.
No, what I did was I got it repaired by the guy that sold it to me, Matt from 30th Street Guitar,
right.
who always wanted to buy that guitar back from me.
Right.
Because he knew how bitchin' that guitar was.
Yeah.
Actually that Crestwood had Firebird pickups in it. The Firebird, those mini humbuckers that say Gibson on it.
Yeah.
So it was an Epiphone so it was like the guitar was just, and now that guitar is still, it was in the Plant Loud exhibit at the Met.
Oh yeah, so, I saw it.
Yeah, so that guitar has a far more interesting story than me, and now it's in Cleveland. Now it's at the Cleveland Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Against the Will, get it back, and that guitar is going to be even more storied. And when it happened, after I heard when it happened, after the performances, Jimmy goes to the musical artist and says hi, and he gets to do that as the host of the show.
Right.
But Jimmy told me that Prince was like, "You see what I did to Kirk's guitar?" And Jimmy said to me, he was like, "Oh, you can't fix it. Don't fix it.
Just so you have the broken guitar."
Yeah, just so Prince did this.
Yeah.
I would rather be able to say Prince did this and still be able to play it than to have that guitar and Prince is the reason why I can't fucking play it anymore.
I kind of like the idea of getting paid by Prince, though.
Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah,
like I got
that's a great idea.
The moment I was on his payroll, and there was a guitar that I saw that I loved. That at the time I didn't feel like I had any business buying that guitar because, I have at the time, an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I shouldn't be buying guitars. And after Prince broke that guitar and put money in my account, I was like, oh, I feel like I kind of have Daddy deserves this. And Matt didn't even take any money to repair it. Like he was just kind of happy to be part of the story.
Right. Those guys do great work.
Yeah, they did a great job. And the guitar sounds amazing as ever, plays amazing, and it lives to tell the story.
Did you ever visit Paisley Park before he passed or since it's opened up? No. I can't bring I was there in town for work, and I thought, and I had a night off, and I was like, or a day off, and I couldn't bring myself to go there because he wouldn't want that. And I was just kind of like, not that I need to
my attitude is like, from what I've known and what we've all see, it's not really a surprise. It's just like, the whole attitude is, he wouldn't want that. It's like, I don't think he's ever thought of another person in terms of his musical career and thought that, oh, this person doesn't want that. He doesn't want that, or she doesn't want that.
Right.
He has a goal. He has a vision. And, he wouldn't let a thing like, kindness and compassion get in the way of his goal. That's not to say that he hasn't done philanthropic things.
Sure.
He totally, he couldn't make the music he's made without a beautiful heart in there somewhere,
sure.
But he also has what he's gone through as a child, like it all comes down to that, doesn't it? So it's like, so as far as like people, people turn, Paisley Park is now here for all to see. He like built that, his not being here anymore is also, kind of, part and parcel to what he put himself through to be at the top of his game,
Right.
to like still perform even when not feeling well, to just how being the best is so important can really do you in, and I think that he's an example of that.
Anyone who thinks that they've seen the absolute limits of his badassness should go just type into YouTube Prince bass solo
Yeah.
because it'll totally
That
fuck you up, right?
wow. Yeah, yeah.
No. Oh,
Okay.
it's so Phil. Have you gone and seen him play the bass? Like he oh, he
Not to,
fucks it up so bad. I mean, he's
yeah.
filthy.
Yeah.
Filthy.
Yeah. Wow.
Um
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, I've seen, what blew me away, like his piano playing, was it Summertime? There was just some sound check, and he was just on the piano playing Summertime. And just the fact that, like, the thing that your go-to example is the bass solo, my go-to example is the piano solo. It just goes to show you.
right.
Um, but yeah, then there's, but and as far as being able to have like an interaction, it's just like I don't know if he'd be able to, if he would be. I guess he's done interviews before, but as far as like revealing who he is, and I guess why does he need to? That's what the music's for,
Right. He was like
But
the last holdout. Like now that there's social media, so like he was up there like posting it, Instagram selfies or some shit like that, right?
yeah,
He
yeah.
was like the last mysterious rock icon.
Yeah, yeah, that's sort of like every now and then, like when I start thinking about, oh, I haven't posted anything in a long time. Oh, I need to. And I know that's not the norm now. I know everybody wants to see like what you are having for dinner,
Right.
but I also have to remember like it's totally okay to like randomly be absent and to not be seen and to nurture your actual life, because I guess that's healthy.
Yeah, every time the Amazon shows up, you don't have to take a picture of the box and be like, "New Shoes Day,
Yeah,
hashtag Chuck All Stars" or whatever. It's like,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I know people like that, and balance. It's
yeah.
got to be balanced.
There are a few things that you brought up that I wanna ask about. First of all, I want to talk about Mark Ford with you because when I listened to the record you put out just over a year ago,
Mm.
I I hear like tinges of like what I consider the golden era of the Black Crowes, and that is like that Mark Ford like second and third record, and it's like it's groovy and the guitars are nasty, and it's was he an influence on you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, I'm trying to like really give you like the short version of like my evolution, and I could like I guess I could just I'll just talk about what I was listening to, just
Yeah.
but in the very beginning, it was Kiss, it was and then from Kiss, then it was like Van Halen and Ozzy, and then with the advent of MTV, it became it was also the Police and U2, and but also I also got into the metallic and this is all like when you go to school,
Right, of course.
and then but everything I was hearing at home was either classical music or rock steady reggae. That was always on one side of my brain. But yeah, the golden 80s, the hair metal. I loved Dokken, and I loved Stryper, and I loved Queensryche, and I loved
Yeah,
Motley
dude.
Crue, and all those bands too. I love guitar, and guitar was taking up so much real estate, and there's so many I love the sound of a guitar. I love, just and then after all those bands, then I started to get into, you know, Zeppelin. I had a drummer friend that was like, turned me on to Zeppelin and Aerosmith, and I was like, well, these guitars don't sound as distorted, but there was a charm, and then of course Hendrix, and it's like, and then I started to like discover other guitar sounds, and these guitar sounds are married to these incredible songs and imagery, and then I got into Living Color, and then I saw that black people could make heavy music.
I remember
I
the
mean,
day. I remember the absolute first moment I saw the Cult of Personality video, and it just
me
like
too.
it put me. It really actually put me flat on my ass. I sat down on a couch. I was 15 or 16, and I was just like, This is this is it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, same. And then
this is
along with
it.
that, discovering Fishbone, and then Truth and Soul. Then it's like, oh, Freddy's Dead was done by somebody else. And then
Right.
going into my dad's collection, and then discovering that my dad was really cool based on his record collection. And then, then it's like close to 89, and then certain girls that I was into, like, were listening to The Cure and the Smiths, and then I got into all that, and then the Cocteau Twins, and then it was just like, oh, guitars can do something totally different.
Yeah.
And then, so then, um, then it was like all about that the Cranberries and the Cocteau Twins and the Sundays and just things that like and then Ride, shoegaze, that period, and then getting into Marvin Gaye, then getting into like, then discovering Funkadelic, and then
Man.
and then of course Prince was also in the mix too.
I remember the first time I heard Maggot Brain too, and
Yeah,
I was just, same thing. And still to
yeah,
this day, when I listen to that record, the hair on my arms stand on end. It's just
yeah, and all in the process connecting the dots, and then
yeah,
connecting the dots, reading interviews from the people that you're into, and they talk about the records they love, and so then uh, the Crows, they're just the organicness of their guitar tones, and again the songwriting, the tones, the singing, and just discovering, and also yeah. So to say, so your original question was Mark Ford. So yes, he was an influence, and but I loved his tones. I loved just huge. I just found him such a great addition to the band. I loved the whole band. I loved,
yeah.
I mean, I loved Rich's riffs, his songwriting, and
Rich's solo albums are great. I don't know if
yeah,
you've heard those,
yeah. I
but
checked those out
you
totally.
hear
Paper
all the chord voicings, and you're like, oh yeah,
yeah.
that.
I would read
There it
interviews with
is.
him, and he'd start talking about Nick Drake, and then I got into Nick Drake, and then bands like The Verve, and of course it was '90s, of course Oasis, and then it's just like, and then you start to think about what it is that you want to do, and when I finally did my own album, I wanted to make an album that really was a celebration of what I've always loved, great songs matched to what I believe to be great songs, and matched to like great guitar tones, and great drum sounds, and just stuff that just when you just want tones you want to bathe in, just when you hear a motorcycle and it's like purring really loud, and there's like a sort of satisfaction, and for me, like if I'm seeing a band, like I love having my head in line of fire with the guitar amp. I'm very
Yeah.
much addicted to that sound.
Well, the whole record is dynamite, and the vocal
Thanks,
performances are on fire.
thank
Like,
you, thanks a lot.
like great. Uh,
Thanks for
you know what? You mentioned you said your rehearsal space, and when I lived in Brooklyn, I had, I'd go get one of I'm sure you're familiar with them from your pre-Roots days, the hourly places that are all over. Man, being a musician in New
Ultrasound.
York is just like, it's not that awesome. It's no wonder that to be a musician in New York and do it, you have to be vibrating at such a high frequency because you probably, the band can only afford to get one rehearsal in for any given gig,
Yeah,
if at all. But
true.
it occurred to me, like, while you're telling that story, oh, fuck, of course the Roots have a rehearsal space at 30 Rock. How incredible was that to step into when the first time you walked in there and like, this is my rehearsal space?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not a very big rehearsal space, but we, prior to setting foot in there, the Roots rehearsal space has always been for the majority like in at shows, like in front of people, jam sessions and so forth, and after I joined the band, there started to be more opportunities. We were starting to be asked to be, be more collaborative. We started doing things like a Roots picnic. We started getting asked to be a house band. After I guess I joined the band after they were Jay-Z's house band for the Unplugged thing, and from there, more and more, we got asked to do these tributes. We did the Neil Young tribute. The before Tonight Show or before Fallon, we did the Dylan tribute at Carnegie Hall or Lincoln Center. I forgot which, but I think Lincoln Center. But we did Masters of War for that, and we were asked to do a few more of those things, and then so we started to play with more people. But once we set foot into 30 Rock, then we were like, we have to be here every day. And so we got to add to the already, 10,000 hours that the Roots has already logged on. And whenever we had any sort of like, tribute to do, like we had to do for Prince, just by virtue of having to be in that building for the show that we had to do, the Tonight Show, we could always rehearse. So we became a well more rehearsed band after starting to do Late Night with Fallon.
Right. What a cool thing to have. You just like cruise over there, and what a luxury as a
Oh God,
musician.
yeah.
I had the privilege of standing side stage at the Hall of Fame induction. What year was it? It was the last year or the second to last year in Cleveland, and it was the year. 'Cause I play with in a band with Duff McKagan.
Yeah.
And so we did a performance at the Rock Cafe or whatever it was, like a little theater for his book. He did a book.
What's it called?
It's So Easy and Other Lies. So we would do this thing where we would sort of comp bits of songs behind him, and then he'd interject, bits of the songs we'd sing, and then he'd read excerpts from the book, and it sort of like condensed the whole book into a live show. It was pretty fun and cool. There's a film. It got filmed at the Moore Theater in Seattle, and you can stream it. But
cool.
We did it there.
I remember Green Day inducted Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, I almost ruined that performance. I stuck around and teched for Gilby the next day. My poor listeners have had to hear me tell the story, but I just he had this perfect JMP at rehearsal the night before. It was crushing. We didn't even try as backup, and then I hit the standby, like as he was walking up, basically to play, and it just died. And so we had to throw up his backup, and anyway, that was only the beginning of what I fucked up. I should have. I'm not a tech, man. Well, I threw his pedal board out there, and it's a quiet stage, right? They're giving their speeches. It's not like watching the playback on HBO or whatever, right? So it's a quiet stage up there. You can't sound check or anything, and whatever. He had a real simple pedal board, hard for me to fuck up. But I bumped the level, and it was just on
Mm.
zero. So he went in to start the song, and there was just like no sound.
Oh no.
No, I just like 0 for 2. At least I handed him a
Yeah.
guitar that was in tune. But I had the pleasure of standing side stage and watching you guys crush, just crush. And
Oh, thank you.
it was, and I just was, I'm just a dick. I'm just the skeptic dick. I'm just always the skeptic dick that adopts great things last. I'm the last in line. But you guys, there was the Beastie Boys thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I like the hair on my arm standing up right now. Sometimes,
Oh,
I mean,
thank you,
like
man.
I'm driving down the road sometimes, and if the Beastie Boys even comes on the radio, I get all choked up. But
No, me too. Me too. If I hear gratitude,
oh
same thing.
man,
I remember I cried when they played gratitude after MCA passed away.
yeah,
But I remember that, and he couldn't make it to the performance, and they aired that performance right after MCA passed on. But yeah, that was a huge honor to be asked to do that because the Roots opened for Beastie Boys before I joined the band. They were like, I think on the when they started doing, was it for Ill Communication? I think the Roots were open up on some of those dates, and yeah, that was before my time. That's when I was still trying to get tickets to see the Beastie Boys or the Roots,
right.
But so yeah, to be able to play with the Roots and to at Cleveland for that and to honor the Beastie Boys was like that was huge for me. And then everybody that played just to be at that space, it's just like it freaks me out thinking about it.
Uh, what were you? So, pardon me, but what did you do? In the years leading up to getting that gig, and how did it come about? And how did the transition from whatever you were doing before hit you? Like, did you feel pressure? Because it's almost immediately doing pretty high profile stuff.
Well, what was I doing before? It was the '90s. Well, I joined the band in '03, so but the period like
Besides smoking clove cigarettes and listening to the Cocteau Twins.
did we hang out?
Could be.
I totally went through my clove period. Um, but yeah, I was playing. I moved to New York to Manhattan in '96
From where?
from Long Island, New York.
Okay.
That's partially why I couldn't escape getting into metal in the '80s. Uh, uh, yeah, like Exit 61 off the LIE. So when I moved into Manhattan, I remember I just met Vernon Reid, and I had this Hendrix book, Crosstown Traffic, and there's that book is dedicated to Vernon. Charles Shar Murray, I believe, is the author of that book, but it's basically about Hendrix and contextualizes him in the time of the '60s and the influence he's had, and speaks about Hendrix's influence on Prince, on James Brown and Little Richard's influence on Hendrix, Hendrix's influence on Vernon. But anyhow, I met Vernon randomly. He was, Living Color had just broken up, and Vernon was around, and so I was teaching preschool at the time. I moved to Manhattan, and that's how I paid my rent. I was teaching 2.5, 3.5 year olds, and I didn't really have any gigs at night. I didn't really know anybody, but there was this place called Cafe Tabac, and on Fridays or they would have like a band play live. Or maybe it was Wednesdays, and I would go and I'd kind of sit in. I'd play for free because I knew the singer, and so that was like my first little taste of like playing in front of people in Manhattan. And then from there, like I'd get to meet different poets, singers, and I just became like that mercenary. I was in a band that was very Cocteau Twins influenced, a band called Binsey Poplars. That's what had me move into Manhattan. And then once I moved in, band broke up. and I was so used to being in one band that it was like very, just the idea of just going around jamming with different people was so foreign to me, but it was so liberating. And that was like my musical liberation. And I was just playing with different, and I was using all the styles that I was, that made me up, whether it was shoegaze, whether it was Cocktail Twins, whether it was, Motown, whether it was funkadelic, whether it was like, mid-period, psychedelic Miles, you know, electric band type of stuff. The only thing I didn't really do was like straight ahead jazz, But I met Vernon, and I was first gig I had in Manhattan was playing with the drag queen Hedda Lettuce. That was
Awesome.
my first gig, and I played acoustic with Hedda. And I remember being on my way to a Hedda gig with at Don Hills, and I ran into Vernon after meeting him a couple times. And at this time, Vernon hadn't even heard me play, but we went out for coffee once, and it was at the time Living Color broke up, and so he had a little extra time to, for like a fan as I was, because when I met him, I was like, the way you feel about Carlos Santana is the way that I feel about you, and I hope you understand. And he got it, and maybe saw a little bit of himself in me, young black guitar player trying to, make it in the big city and find his way. So anyhow, I saw Vernon. He was like, "Oh, when's your birthday?" So I told him when my birthday was, September 30th, and same as Trey Anastasio, who we played with 2 days ago.
Damn.
So Vernon's like, "Oh, okay." So I don't hear from Vernon for like 3 months, and I got a call from my ex roommate, because he was the drummer from the band that just broke up. And Vernon called him when I still lived there, because this is before cell phones, and before I
Yeah.
didn't even have a pager. So Vernon, he's like, my ex roommate was like, Vernon has something for you. He said. So I called Vernon back and told me to meet him. And at the time he lived on 30th Street, as a matter of fact. And so I was out in the hallway of the building he lived in, and he came out with a huge flight case, and he laid it down. He was like, "I used this guitar when I played with Ronald Shannon Jackson in the Decoding Society. I'm not sure what year this is. I think maybe 68, 69, but I don't know. This is yours now." And he opened it, and it was a gold top Gibson Les Paul.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
It was super heavy. The flight case itself was heavy. The guitar was heavy. But I lived on Grove Street at the time. I was subletting a place, and I carried it the whole way home, like not believing what just happened to me, wanting to tell everybody that was walking the other direction, but knew I couldn't because they probably wouldn't care. But
That's
incredible. It was totally incredible. And at that time, I'm moving into the city. I was the music I was into. I was thinking at the time I was like a Strat guy, and I was thinking, I wonder what it would be like to play a Les Paul, because I was Mark Ford was playing Les Pauls, and I was super into Zeppelin, and it just came at the right time. And I at the time, that's when I discovered the combination of a Les Paul with a JMP.
Oh,
And
yeah. There's nothing quite like it.
Yeah, at the time I remember 23rd Street guitars, Chelsea Guitars. Is that what it's called? On 23rd Street? Dan, I think is the guy's name was. He's in the Son of Sam movie. He makes a cameo. I think. Anyhow, but they had a Fawn Marshall dog. JMP. What?
he voiceovers the talking dog.
Yes. Kill the girl. So yeah, they had a Fawn Marshall there for like $650. I remember.
That ship has sailed.
I know. But I remember, I don't know. I think my grandma had just passed, and I had I just got like $1,000, and I bought it, and I like that was and I still use that amp, that JMP. But So anyhow, so yeah, after Vernon gave me this guitar, I just felt like unstoppable, and just it had such a thick sound. Like I'd go to jam with anybody, and just like even if I felt shy, like just the tone of that thing was just that wasn't shy, and just that really helped me come out of my shell. And so anyhow, to answer your original question, what was I doing before joining the Roots? I was teaching preschool during the day, and I was playing in one of like 10 to 12 musical situations at night, whether it's a band, whether it's a poet, whether it's a drag queen, like whatever. And eventually, the Roots manager, Rich Nichols, God bless his soul, God rest his soul, saw me playing with a vocalist, I think, Imani Uzuri, or was it a band, Jolie Fuego, with Alice Smith? But I was playing at SOBs. He saw me play at SOBs. He gave me his card, just thinking he could use me to some capacity, not for the Roots necessarily, but probably a year or two later, when the guitar player for the Roots, Ben Kinney, left the Roots to join the band Incubus. He left the guitar station of the Roots to play bass with Incubus. There was a guitar chair open with the Roots. They
Right.
just put out the album Phrenology. They were just about to do their Japanese tour. I was teaching preschool, and Rich called me and asked if I'd be interested in auditioning. And Vernon was filling Ben's place in the interim. So when the Roots were looking for a guitar player, and because Vernon couldn't stay because he has to be Vernon Reid from Living Color, Vernon recommended me. Other people on the New York scene sort of recommended me. So they heard my name from a couple different directions, and I auditioned in Philly with Amir, Questlove, Thompson, and I discovered I got the gig. I met the rest of the band in the airport.
Is that right?
Well, no, I met a couple. I went to a sound check. You know what's crazy? I went to a sound check because the band was playing at Roseland on my wife's birthday, and I was trying to get tickets for that show to take my wife for her birthday anyhow.
Yeah.
And I wound up having to go to the sound check, not to play, but I went to the sound check, and I discovered there were like other people in the band that auditioned that were at the same sound check. And I think that the manager wanted to see what I looked like on stage with those guys, because I think other people that auditioned for that gig had to do the same thing. Like I was just invited. I met some people in the band. I was on stage. I met the keyboard player. I met Kamal. I met Scratch, the beatbox guy, and I met. Did I even see the drummer there? No, I met the drummer there too. I met him again after I auditioned. And then I had to go because it was my wife's birthday. I think I almost didn't get the gig because I was like, because I had to leave. To like, I don't know, this guy's too dedicated to his wife. Could be a problem. But I wound up going to the show that night with my wife, and just thinking, I don't know, man, this is like, it's a lot of hip hop. This is a lot of the guitar didn't have a huge role in the band. But I would have to take a solo at some point. Every member of the band does like a solo thing. So I was like, am I going to have to do that? And so it was great to join the band for the Japanese tour, because going to Japan at the time, or what I discovered a lot of times with the band, that's where they would go, and that's where they would go to change their set. And they would like kind of, if the band was doing the same set for a while, for like a year, they'd go to Japan and sort of try new things out and see how it would go over.
Yeah.
And so my first gig with the band was, because they would do that in Japan because they would play a lot of Blue Note gigs in small clubs. But the first
no
gig I did with
rehearsal.
them, no, I got a tape of the show, and I did the show. The first gig I had with them, it was like 5,000 people there, which
Right.
I've never played in front of that many people before. And I was just like, I remember just.
Let me ask you this, because I know you're a big Kiss fan. The first gig I ever played in Japan was the same the same deal exactly, but it was NK Hall in Tokyo, and
Uh-huh.
the stage
That
is
sounds really familiar.
it's an arena, and the
Okay.
stage is curtained, and
Oh, it
like,
wasn't that.
and it felt like, it felt dramatic, like going to see a concert when I was a kid,
Yeah.
when it opened up, I saw it at sound check and everything, but it looked like the inside of Alive, like
Yeah.
it looked just like that, and I thought, I don't know if I'm gonna remember what to do. I was
Yeah.
terrified, but
Yeah.
it kicks in, right?
Oh yeah, and I remember just I rehearsed that show so much because I was like, you know, I didn't know what was going to go on. I remember at the time I had just read the Motley Crue book, The Dirt, and I remember like uh, just at the time, I was still teaching preschool. I gave my 2 weeks notice, and my parents they were really against me joining the band. They're like, "You have a good job with insurance," and
Right,
the last thing that they were expecting was a career in music.
right.
Music was always something to, a hobby. Uh, so yeah, when I saw that and I experienced that, and just I really like played like my life depended on it, and I really like every gig was all about let me do whatever I can do to not have to go back to teaching preschool. That,
So before this no rehearsal gig in front of 5,000 people, what was the most largely attended show that you had played?
oh, well, I mean, I used to, who I played with before the Roots. I should mention. There's a guy T.M. Stevens.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the bass player. He played bass for Pretenders
yeah.
for the Get Close album. He played with bass with Joe Cocker.
Does he live in New
Big,
Jersey?
yes,
I
yes,
think
big black man.
he is the friend of the neighbor of some good friends of mine,
Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah. He was, you know, it was through TM that I had my first exposure to, traveling to play for large crowds. So to answer your question, I guess we've done gigs where it's like there's been, maybe like 1,000 people there.
yeah.
Um, so I mean, definitely gigs were like, but I mean, yeah, it's a significant difference the 5,000 to 1,000 person thing. But with TM, I got to play shows in Japan with him, played in Germany, and that was a
Oh,
huge eye opener. So that was a nice uh, precursor to the Roots experience for me.
can you imagine if you didn't have that experience and you went from like playing at the bitter end, and then all of a sudden you're
Yeah,
like following signs to catering, and you're like, what?
yeah, yeah,
Am I
yeah,
allowed to eat or not? I don't know. It is. What is
yeah.
this pass worth?
No, it's true. I never thought about that, but it's very true.
That's what I
I
did.
Yeah, yeah. Wow,
uh,
crazy how life
that's
turns out.
that's great.
Worked out wonderfully, and then just to see, the exponential growth of experience, for all of us, after the late night with Jimmy Fallon thing, that everything we did, my 8 years in the band was, yeah, like I guess it was 70, yeah, it was like 7 years in the band, and you got to play with people here and there, but yeah, that it was definitely a different arena once we started doing late night with Jimmy.
At this point, I mean, building the videos that I'm building now, I find myself laughing out loud as I'm sending emails because I'm building these like dream teams or grab bags, right? And we're like we're doing these songs that I think are relatively unexpected, and I'm just laughing. But I have to imagine, like, you have found yourself in so many situations throughout your career, especially in the last 17 years, that is there anything that you still laugh out loud at, or that makes you give pause, or where you're like, oh, that you get nervous about it all?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just, I mean, it's funny that you even say career. That blows my mind. But it's like it's. I guess we could, it's been long enough where we can actually call it that without being pretentious. But yeah, like it's what's crazy is to stop and think, and then and to like the last one, like Steve Miller. We did "Fly Like an Eagle" with Steve Miller, and
Wow.
that's like one of my favorite songs, like ever. Just it's almost like it's almost like a Bob Marley song, in that in its intention, or the intention I gather from it, and just the groove of it, and just all the tones in it, and just like if I'm out, if and there's dancing and they play that song, like I'm so on the dance floor. So to be with the dude, and you just hoping everything you're doing is right. You just hoping he walks away from the experience saying like, yeah, they played my song great. That's so like so yeah. So I wasn't nervous, but but that was one of the situations I just felt like in it, and you're just in it because you're just enjoying it, and you're hoping that maybe he messed up somewhere along the way, so you could get it to do it again.
Yeah.
Playing with Gary Clark Jr. for the Grammys.
Yeah.
We did his song "This Land," and there's at the Grammys, that's a place where if a bomb drops on that place, there's just no more music. Just like all the luminaries are there, and it's being filmed and it's live, and it's just like so. I as supportive of a role I had, and not having to like sing or solo or anything, but just being there. There's like a feeling of you definitely have the adrenaline going, and just what the way everything looks
So,
backstage at a place like that. That's like
oh yeah.
you're just constantly reminded that what you're doing is pretty much regarded as a big deal. It's
Right.
hard to get away from that fact.
I constantly tell myself, I don't have to remind myself much anymore, but when I was in situations where I'd feel pressure, I'd be like, you belong here. Like if I felt like, you look around and you look across the table and you see, whoever, fill in the blank, someone that you admire. I'm a big Steve Jones fan. I found myself around him and with him a lot,
Yeah,
playing with Duff, and we became very friendly. And I was just like, okay, right, I belong here.
yeah.
I was invited. I'm not trespassing.
I have to.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I need to say. I need to say that to myself too.
Do you ever have to give yourself pep talks or anything like?
Yeah, yeah. Um, but
The situations that you are in are like the Grammys. They're like, you know,
I
ever.
give myself those pep talks, and yeah, I still do. But but I feel like I get the cosmic winks that happen every now and then.
Yeah, man.
That when somebody just tells you something, and that doesn't feel like it's just blowing smoke up your ass, but just like if somebody just or if I see if somebody gives a compliment, or if just you know, it happens, and you have to like take those moments and just as it's the universe giving you a pep talk.
Right.
So I get those, and that's just what anybody should be doing as they move through this life. It's like in The Alchemist. You get the signs, and you have to have your eyes open to read the signs, and so the conversations that I have, like this, just if I stop and think about it, I just looking at it when Vernon gave me that Les Paul, that was always like my sort of one of my initial signs that I need to be here. Like
It's like being struck by lightning.
yeah, yeah. Just I mean, I can go on about stuff like that. Just I remember Jimmy Page was on the show. Yeah, and we were trying. I forgot, like, he was going to be a couch guest with Jimmy Fallon. He was because I think his coffee table book just came out.
I got it.
And so we're like, the probably the most fun for the show of the gig is trying to think of what walkout to play for when somebody comes out. And it's one of the cool things about the Roots and about the Tonight Show and with Jimmy is like, and the thing that I guess Paul Schaefer and Max Weinberg, they never did, like, we actually sing the songs that we do. I don't know why other bands never did that, but it's just like, why not sing the
Right.
song? If there's a lyric that's pertaining to the guest, make that lyric heard. Or in the case of, lying ass bitch, don't sing the lyric. But so when it was Jimmy Page was on the show, we were like, we didn't know what song to do. I think we were gonna maybe do something like Turn the Page or something. I forgot what it was, but I was thinking, it's like, man, like, this is royalty, and like, we got to do something that just brings him out the regal way that he deserves. He's royalty in my eyes, at least.
It's funny. I already had, like, as the second you started the story, I had the song automatically in my head.
I wonder if we're having the same song, but I know if it's not the song, I'll know what to do next time. But so when he came out, the song we did, because at the last minute, because we learned it like right before the show started, and I remembered the bass line, it's a walking bass line, and right before he came out, I said to the bass player, "It's like, make sure you walk the bass line," and then he did it because Mark Kelly on bass is a badass. It was Rumble.
Oh, that's cool.
Because remember, it might get
Yeah,
loud.
yeah, of course.
And
how amazing was it to see him get it, like he lights up when he's listening to that and talking about it. He's like,
yes.
He's like,
so check it out. So maybe a few years later, I have my best friend Teddy, one of my best friends from high school, works at a record shop, and Teddy called me. Is like, Kirk, he's here.
Yeah.
So right after the Tonight Show was over, I got on the train, went down to the record shop he works at, and Page was there, and I was
he was still there.
He was still there. He was at a record shop. He's like us. He likes records.
Yeah.
He's a fan. He's still a fan. So I was like, because when Jimmy was at the show, I was getting my hair and makeup done next to him.
Yeah.
And we talked about Gary Clark Jr. while that was happening. But so when I went back to the record shop, he was still there. He was about to leave, but I was like, "Hey, Jimmy, I'm Kirk. I play guitar for the Roots." It's like, it was my idea to play Rumble, and he was like, "It's like, mate, when you played that, my hair stood up on my arms."
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing.
It was like, so that was my, like, I belong here. You know what I mean? Like, for whatever other stuff, but there's a bunch of, cool moments like that, and I hope, I stay lucid enough to remember them when I get old. And
crossword
I write them
puzzles,
down.
man. Crossword puzzles.
That's the key. Crossword puzzles, you belong here. Taking notes too.
The other thing that I would always tell myself, because if you're nervous, right? If you're like, oh my God, this is the most important thing in the whole world, then you're you're going to be all uptight, right? And the thing I think that I eventually realized is, and that helped me a lot, is that it doesn't matter. Like in the scope of life, right? What's important in life? Like you're here, you do a show, maybe you clam a note. Who fucking cares? It doesn't matter if the show's on fire.
True. Bill Murray and Meatballs. It just doesn't matter.
It just doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It's true. It's true.
It really
no,
doesn't.
You're right. That's. I give myself that talk too. I mean, that was actually one of the things that Jimmy Vivino said to me. It's just like, one thing is I'll get all worked up. I'll do this has to be exact right, and then I'll remember myself. It's like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
I saw him at the Levon Helms bar.
You want to play what you're here. You want to play at a certain. You do it enough. You're gonna play for your ear. And
right.
When you're playing for your ear, when you're playing what your ear wants to hear, it's like it would be almost like you'd have to go more out of your way to play the wrong thing.
Right.
It's like you're not gonna let yourself play the wrong
or
thing.
Your mind is you're going to be drifting and thinking about something other than being present. Like if you're present, you're
like
in
you're
it.
sort of forced into this presence, so you have that going for you.
With all that being said, what's the best clam you ever laid in the most high profile situation?
Oh,
there's got to be a good one, right? Nothing memorable.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I would. Nothing. You know what? Like a long time ago, we did. The Roots did a chestnuts roasting on an open fire, the Christmas song.
Yeah.
On the Tonight on like early on, like our second year in the group, I think. Second year on the show, and I think during the solo of that song, I wanted to play this really fast, impressive run, and it was just a big lesson. Like if you're playing something just for the purpose of like showing off,
right?
It's just like that. It could possibly work against you.
Yeah, sure.
And, yeah, and I think I vaguely remember that not turning out the way that I wanted it to and being pretty embarrassed about it. So that happened.
So I've never seen a taping of Jimmy's show, but what did I see? I was down. What's the show downstairs that has the guest drummers? What did I see?
Oh, Seth Meyers.
Yeah, I saw Sean Kinney from Alice in Chains was a guest drummer.
Oh wow.
One week, and I came up there to 30 Rock and got to hang and saw him sit in and hung with him afterwards, and he was telling me about the setup, and he's like, what a crazy, I mean, for the average musician, it's a really unusual setup, right? Everyone's on ears. Someone like whoever I guess it would be the MD. I don't know. You tell me, but someone is telling you, okay, here it comes, right?
That would be our drummer. That would be Questlove.
Right. So we got, we're out on 3 or 4 or whatever, and that's a tough job for like someone was cueing him. He's like, yeah, we rehearse the little bits during the day. And then at night, I mean, I've never seen him, he's a pretty rock steady guy, but he was pretty nervous. He did a great job.
It's a total fish out of water situation.
Right.
I mean, we were terrified like that first week. It's just like, if ever there's a feeling of like playing on eggshells, that's it. Because not only do you have to, like, when it's time to turn it on, you have to turn it on. When it's time to turn it off, it's probably more important that you're off when it's time to be off. Because the last thing you want to do is like, and that's like is when Jimmy's giving an interview and somebody's like tuning their guitar because the
Right.
stage is like so like live out there and like it's so quiet and you can hear every little thing. So even if you're like tuning your guitar acoustically, like you could hear that like way across the stage. So
Do you hand that off to someone to tune off stage?
no, you just have to be very
Right.
aware about it. Be careful.
Do you got a clip
But
on?
what?
Do you use a clip on?
No, I have a Boss tuner, but I've learned to just be super quiet.
Yeah.
And what I have, which is super helpful. I love the word super a lot. But what's most helpful is to have when I step on my tuner, there's a feed that goes into my ear.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And so if Jimmy starts singing something and I want to join him, I for like a couple seconds can make sure I'm in key with him before I bravely try to play anything.
Oh, that's incredible. I like this behind the curtain magic trick stuff.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that's yeah. I mean, that was a complete game changer.
It's certainly becoming more common that you see folks on in-ears, but by and large, like, it's still especially to have someone's talk back in your ears.
Yeah, it's distracting, but now it's like, I mean, that's why, I talk about like, I belong here. Well, I know we belong here because we've been doing it that way on in-ears under that scenario for so long. So like, I know like, Joe Bonamassa, Yngwie Malmsteen, Gary Clark Jr., George Benson, like they could come in and play, but they're all still like, they have to kind of, they're in this fish out of water situation, and they'll still be great.
Let's back up for a second.
Weird.
Did you say Yngwie Malmsteen fucking came and played?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was Yngwie. I have a picture with the Roots, Yngwie, and Ricky Martin all in the same shot. We did. Do you remember?
Did you guys
Black Star?
The song Black Star? Do I know that?
Yeah.
Is that what you just asked? Oh yes.
Oh yeah, that's me and Yngwie played harmony on that.
Get the fuck out of here.
But he showed me how to play the fucking harmony with him.
Really?
Dude, he showed up. We have this little tiny ass rehearsal room.
Did you know that after that?
Yeah.
Oh,
he showed me how to play it.
That's amazing.
Like he played it slow for me to like catch up. Like, and then I was able to do it. It was insane. And what's great is back then we had a more rockin' theme song for Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. Da 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 da. So we have recordings of everybody playing along to that. And for Yngwie's, we probably we did the rehearsal of it like in the room. We probably played it like 7 times. He played it differently each time, and it was each time we were all like laughing hysterical,
right?
Because it was just so Yngwie. And he had when he showed up in that little room he had his own signature Marshall sweatsuit.
Yeah.
instead of JMP, it says YJM.
Yeah.
I took a picture of that. It's a plexi and it has like an attenuator on the back. So you can like crank it and also turn it down. And just sitting across from him, like while he's playing the stuff right in front of your face, is just like, what was he saying? He's just like, yeah, it's at the point where it's not even like licks anymore. It's just more flowing now. I remember him saying that. It was, yeah. I remember.
I still have my original copy of Rising Force, that first record on vinyl.
Far Beyond the Sun, man.
Dude, and here's the thing, like I was so into it, right? I realized after a couple years that was not in my future,
Yeah.
And that was my stepping stone. Like that was like, oh, okay, out the door, kid.
This will not be me. Yeah.
Right. Go learn some Echo and the Bunnymen songs or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I was getting pretty close when I was younger, and I remember like when the Trilogy album came out, there's a trilogy, Opus two or three,
Four.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember getting pretty close, like putting on enough distortion to like at least fake it for anybody that was interested.
Right.
And but yeah, like it became apparent. After I remember we did a battle of the bands, and then we did some Queensryche, we did Queen is in Love, a lot of Queens turn up in this music. And I remember like after the battle of the bands we lost because we made it to the battle of the bands because that was great, but we lost because our equipment kind of failed. But I remember like leaving that battle of the bands, looking at my ripped jeans and the spandex underneath, and looked at me with my little afro and my kind of John Lennon glasses, and being like, this is not working. I need to like find another lane. And it was after that I started listening to Carole King's Up on the Roof, and
You started learning some chord inversions.
yeah just something that was just I've been having a lot of candy for a lot of years. I need to eat some food with some real sustenance.
Right.
And also I remember Guitar World, they just had like a Hendrix anniversary, and I bought Hendrix Live in Winterland. That was my first Hendrix. That was my Hendrix introduction, and then kind of seeing, okay, this is sort of where the roots of the music that I was previously listening to, where this comes from, and let me discover where his roots come from, and then that led me on the journey that I told you about an hour ago.
A friend of mine once said to me, and I think that it applies to Hendrix as well. He said the hardest part, the only thing harder than learning the catalog of Stevie Ray Vaughan licks is to unlearn them. Like to like get them, like to not have them in your immediate lexicon, right? Mm-hmm. So that like everything, you go in a deep dive on someone and you're playing along and you're like, oh, what are they doing right there? And you're so far in it every time you pick up a guitar. That's, you're kind of emulating that, right? Did you ever go through a deep dive Hendrix thing?
Yeah. Just, especially, being on tour and just wanting to stay, out of trouble, just, and then with the advent of the iPod, I definitely was like going in like licks that like make me turn my head. Like I want to learn how to play those licks that make me turn my head, and then at some point things just sort of like melt together, and it's all like an experience of what you've paid most attention to, in the solo lick department. I remember and then one of the most incredible pinch me things was I was never really into John Scofield, and he sat in with us on my birthday.
Turns out he's pretty good.
That was just like, and then I read a quote from him, and just like, jazz, it's just, you just learn a bunch of phrases and you just play them. Like like, okay, clearly you have an encyclopedic knowledge of phrases. But yeah, so the album he was promoting, I got that album, and like the songs were good. His tone was amazing. And everything that came out of those speakers from his fingers were just like, it was all.
What year was that?
This is 2016. I think the album's called Future Present.
Rad. I'll check that out.
And he was playing at the Blue Note, and he put me on the list. And there's another friend I had that was a big fan of his, and we got to see Scofield play like a day after I played with him, and he was he was even better, So it's like seeing that was just a moment where I was just like, whoa, there's so much like you know. There's never been a more applicable statement like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Right.
And you know, I can, you know, I'm married. I have like a wife and two children, and they're in Denmark now for you know, probably for a year
Oh
due to the
man.
whole pandemic stuff. They're going to go
Yeah.
to school there for, but like as far as being a guitar player in the situation, you know, we've chosen a path where you know, you can't really know it all.
Sure.
You know, I've never been in a better position to just be by myself where I can like just learn and sit and but I mean there's so much stuff to learn, you know, there's learning the fretboard, there's learning how to master the H9 pedal, you know, there's learning how to like
That's a you need an encyclopedia.
yeah.
You need a computer brain for that thing. That's killer.
Yeah, but I mean, as I've discovered, you know, like Ableton and recording in Ableton used to give me agita, and then you know, being in quarantine, I was in a situation where there wasn't really much else going on other than, you know, cooking and parenting, and but really wasn't much going on but cooking, parenting, and doing stuff for the Tonight Show from home. So I was forced to like day after day visit Ableton and learn how to, you know, record myself and punch myself in and learn how, you know, the wonderful world of plugins, and that's a whole rabbit hole.
So are you working on material for another record? Another 100 watt
Yeah,
heart?
I don't know if it's going to
Great.
be 100 watt heart, but I'm working on music. It probably will be, you know. That, but I'm definitely, you know, now more than ever, um, I'm so intrigued by music that's done in spaces outside of a studio and trying to get, you know, chase tones that are from outside of a studio, that chase tones that were made in a studio. Like this mic here that I'm not using. That's just this. It's a biodynamic
Yeah.
160. And I think they used two of these to record the drums for When the Levee Breaks. But I think Hendrix. I heard Hendrix. They recorded his amp with this. I saw, you know, Pete Thorne. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Pete. He did a demo of this mic, and I was going to use it for this interview, but I couldn't figure out how to make my interface work with Zoom. But since here, I might as well talk about it. So like things like that. Like I'm trying to like
Right.
learn how to like capture, and there's a beauty about being able to record something that's and you love the tone of it, and it was recorded in your bedroom. What? That's,
I've been working on a bunch of stuff, and for fun, I'll send you a thing or two. It's and I've done everything in the box,
yeah.
like everything, all the guitar sounds, and they sound good. But 2 weeks ago, I got one of those Universal Audio aux boxes,
Oh yeah.
the speaker.
Yeah.
It's an attenuator and speaker simulator,
Yeah.
and it absolutely blew my mind
Really.
because all of a sudden there's not I don't know what it is, but like you could plug your JMP into it, and it you wouldn't know the difference between listening to a headphone feed of it in an ISO room and this, like, it's really convincing, and it reacts with you in ways that no sim, and the sims are great now. I have that Helix plug-in. It's great.
Yeah.
Sounds dynamite, but ain't nothing like the real thing.
I know, and I'm just now discovering, like, especially like living in an apartment, and also, I have my mom's. She still lives in the house that I grew up in, so I go out there. That's where my Marshall lives, and that's where the loud amps live. But like being here, like I'm just learning, my own techniques, and just I've just like last week has discovered like what happens when I mic one of my amps with this thing, and then just getting into like moving the microphone around,
Oh yeah.
and going down that road, and it's fun. It's time consuming, and but it's rewarding when you get it right. You know.
What kind of little amp are you? I assume you're using a little combo at home, yeah?
Yeah. Well,
Well, we're
we
gonna
can
see
start to
it.
move.
Let's see it.
Uh, I'm gonna get some light in the equation. Oh, but nobody's gonna see this.
No, I want to see it. You could
Okay.
tell me about it.
Okay. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yeah, is it a La Mesa?
Yeah.
Stiletto?
Exactly.
Yeah, great amp.
That's what uh the guy that played with Slash and Velvet Revolver. He was using one of these.
Yeah, Kushner.
Yeah, Kushner.
Yeah,
This
he's
amp sounds amazing, yo. It's
yeah.
like, and it's quiet. Like, and I mean, when I listen to it, it has EL34s and the whole boogie thing. You don't have to turn it up loud. It's got a master volume. Totally convincing.
Yeah.
And this is a cute little amp. This is by this guy Philco, who his amp is in that movie Carmine Street Guitars.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's a little Champ copy, but it sounds like like one of the best Champs you've ever heard. So that's an amp that you want to crank, and
People don't realize a lot of the great sounds on old records aren't 100-watt amps turned up in a studio. They're like little amps cranked, sounding amazing.
And that's just discovering that and then exploring that is so much fun. Because I mean, I totally have one of those old Supros, and it's just they sound big and they sound unique. It's just fun to like capture the sound of something working so hard, capture the sound of something that like, because in the room, an amp like that sounds that's magical,
Yeah.
So it's like now with the whole recording thing, like now I have a real feeling of vindication and justification for why I have these amps, because it was kind of hard to justify it to my wife before. Like,
man, I'll tell you what, you got bachelor pad going on right now for the foreseeable future year.
Yeah,
you gotta get one of those auxes or two notes make something similar, and it'll change your life because you could play silently in the middle of the night. Nobody's gonna care. I can't even wake my dogs up.
Does there an interface like?
There's an iPad interface or a desktop interface where you can control a ton of parameters, choose different cabinet styles, different speakers. It's great. No,
Wow.
it really. I'd been wanting one for 2 years. So I think they came out about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I finally just was like, I gotta do this. I can't recommend it highly
Yeah.
enough.
Okay.
Dude, thank you so much. Yeah, I think you have such a great opportunity to have this. I know it's probably not easy to have your family away, and that's a challenge.
FaceTime makes it way easier. We're in contact a lot. I'm gonna go visit them next week, God
Good.
willing, and hopefully I make it in the country. Hopefully I make it back into this country. Hopefully I have all my paperwork straight, saying I'm here because I'm married to one of your people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, but I've grown quite. Many of us have grown accustomed to what we should be doing is trying to find the silver linings wherever we can, and the silver lining of being able to like make a lot of discover music, to practice, to just basically be my 20-year-old self with a the brain of a 47-year-old.
Yeah, man.
I want to utilize that power for as much good as possible. Because
There's,
once they come back, I'm so back on duty.
no, you couldn't listen to a single motivational speaker that would not say something to the effect of, look at every challenge, every challenging situation, or everything that seems, frustrating as an opportunity to learn and grow, right? And
Absolutely.
like, what can I learn from this? And yeah, so I'm really excited to see. I love the record.
Thank you, man.
I can't wait to see what you come up with during this time, because it seems like you're going to have a little more time to focus creatively, like all of us.
Yep.
When you'll be back in 3 weeks, you said? When did you say?
I leave on the 21st, and I come back on the 31st.
I hope that when you get back, I'll have our video prepped for you, so you can step up to the plate and knock it out of the park.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to. I mean, trying to capture the. I have one of those JHS pedals, the muffalata.
Well, we don't talk about the songs because we want them to be surprises. But yeah,
Did
that's going to be great.
I say too much?
You haven't said the song. No, it's great.
Okay.
But it's nice to have a little hint dropper.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'll say this about the muffalata. Do you know what that is?
Oh, sure. It's like all the different. It's like 8 different iterations of the Big Muff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I look forward to because I know there's other people that are on the track too. So I'm sure the studio track has more than one guitar.
Oh, you betcha.
So yeah, looking forward to seeing how we do with copying the vibe and sound of said unnamed track.
I think it's going to be dynamite. Well, yeah, thanks a lot, man. Travel safe. I'm glad you're going to get to hang with your family, and I appreciate you spending so much time.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Sure. When you get your next record out, we'll have you back.
Thank you.
I would love that.
Cheers.
All right, man. Have a good night.
All right, man. Take care. Peace.